Today, we uncover the shocking truth about Subway UK. And if you've been a regular customer for any length of time, what you're about to hear is going to make you think very differently about that green sign. This is a brand that once had more UK locations than McDonald's. That's how popular they were. And a £5 note used to get you a footlong, a drink, a bag of crisps with some change. That was lunch sorted. Because they once stood for something on every British high street. But what it's become now is a very different story. It's hard to imagine now, but there was a time when Subway was genuinely woven into British everyday life. You always knew when you were within 50 yards of one before you could even see it. That warm, sweet, yeasty smell drifting out onto the street was completely unmistakable. And when you walked through the door, you'd be hit by those NYC skyline murals on the walls, the slightly tacky yellow and green booths, the hanging lamps, and that whole slightly chaotic, slightly brilliant experience of pointing through the glass and micromanaging your own lunch like it was the most important decision of the day. And people noticed when it changed. People remember the sub card, an actual physical stamp card that you'd fish out of your wallet, and if the person behind the counter liked you, they might give you a cheeky extra stamp to help you along. You were working towards something real, collecting it, earning it. So what happened? Because what you'll find inside a Subway in 2026 is a very different story from that smell and that memory. And the brand that built its entire identity on the promise that you could always see exactly what was going into your food is now in some locations covering the counter with stickers so you physically can't. So we've researched and gone through all the latest information about Subway UK and will expose the 12 things you must know before you set foot in a Subway again. Now, before we get into it, this is the part where we need your help. Everything this channel does depends on reach, and reach depends on you. The hype button is the single biggest thing you can do right now to make sure this information gets in front of the people who deserve to see it. Because when enough people are watching and sharing these videos, it starts a conversation that companies are actually forced to respond to. It creates pressure. It pushes back against the assumption that customers won't notice, won't care, or won't say anything. Well, we notice. And if you believe people have the right to know what's actually in their food and what they're genuinely paying for, then hit that hype button right now. Every single click matters. Subscribe too, because there is a lot more where this came from. And let's get into it. Number 12, the formed meat reveal. And we're starting here for a very deliberate reason. When most people walk into a Subway and order a turkey breast sub or a chicken footlong, they're picturing something close to what you'd find at a deli counter. A recognizable cut, proper protein, meat that started life looking like the thing it's claimed to be. That image is absolutely central to Subway's brand. It's baked into the name. Eat fresh. So here's what Subway UK's own official Allergen document, published in May of 2026, actually says about some of those popular menu items. If you scroll down to the footnotes of that document, you'll find a small dagger symbol next to certain products on the menu, and that footnote explains exactly what the symbol means. It says, formed meat. According to Subway's own May 2026 Allergen PDF, that dagger appears next to items including the roast chicken breast strips, the ham, the turkey breast, and the Philly steak. Some of the most ordered items on the entire menu. What the term describes is a specific industrial process where meat is chopped, blended, shaped, and reconstituted into a uniform product. It's the same process used to produce the cheaper, budget-end sliced meats you'll find in the economy section of any supermarket. Entirely legal. Very common in the food industry, but a significant distance from the deli counter freshness implied by the menu board. And for the prices Subway UK is currently charging, customers absolutely deserve to know that the dagger in the footnotes exists and what it means. Number 11. The sauce trap and the caramelised bread. And this is where the word fresh really starts to earn some scrutiny. Subway's whole sales model rests on the idea of controlled, healthy customization. You choose your bread, you choose your filling, you add your salad, you pick a sauce. The idea is that you're making informed, sensible decisions about what goes in. So let's have a genuine look at what some of those choices actually involve. A standard serving of sweet chili sauce, 14 grams, contains 6.5 grams of sugar. That's roughly equivalent to the sugar content of a chocolate biscuit, delivered in a single squirt over your sandwich. The barbecue sauce comes in at over 5 grams of sugar per serving. Sweet onion, which most people would consider one of the lighter options, sits at nearly 5 grams. And the garlic and herb sauce adds 80 calories almost entirely from fat before you've even reached the filling. Now the bread. According to Subway's own UK nutrition data, a 6-inch Italian herbs and cheese loaf contains 5 grams of sugar. The honey and oat option is 4.5 grams per 6-inch portion. In 2020, the Irish Supreme Court ruled that Subway's bread contained so much sugar it couldn't legally qualify as bread under Irish tax law, where staple foods are exempt from VAT. That ruling applied specifically in Ireland, not in the United Kingdom. But the underlying numbers don't stop being interesting just because the jurisdiction changes. And then there's what a former Subway store manager described publicly about their time in the role. They said that at the end of every single shift, cleaning the ovens was a proper ordeal. Not because of the meat or the cheese, but because the inside of the oven was coated with what they described as a thick, brown, sticky layer of basically caramelized sugar every single night just from the bread. That's the bread. The wholesome, fresh base of your healthy lunch. Number 10. The allergen warning. And this one is shorter, but it may be the most important point on this list, depending on your personal circumstances. Subway UK's own allergen documentation, published in May of 2026, explicitly states that they cannot guarantee any item is free from common allergens. That list of allergens includes egg, fish, milk, sesame, soya, tree nuts, gluten, sulfites, celery and mustard. For most people ordering a standard sandwich, this might feel like background information. But for the millions of people across this country managing genuine food allergies, it's the kind of detail that could matter enormously. And it's currently sitting in a PDF that most customers never think to look for. And it gets more specific than that. According to the same document, Subway's vegan menu items are made to vegan recipes, but they're explicitly noted as not being suitable for people with dairy or egg allergies due to cross-contamination risk in the store environment. So if you're choosing a vegan option at Subway because of a dairy or egg intolerance rather than a lifestyle preference, Subway's own documentation is directly telling you that option may not be safe. According to the Food Standards Agency, restaurants have a legal obligation to provide allergen information, but understanding cross-contamination risk remains the customer's responsibility. Which makes it all the more important that this kind of information is prominently visible at the point of ordering, not buried in the small print of a document you'd have to go looking for online. Number 9. The hidden counter and kiosk takeover. And this is something that long-term UK Subway customers have been noticing and quietly resenting for a while now. Subway's whole model was built on transparency. You stood at the counter, watched every ingredient go in, directed every choice out loud, and could ask for more or less of anything because it was all happening directly in front of you. That visibility was the product. It was what made Subway feel different from a wrapped item behind a heat lamp. Whether or not you agreed with the Eat Fresh branding, the experience of watching your own food being made was genuinely unique on the high street. In May of 2024, Subway announced the rollout of self-serve kiosks across the United Kingdom, describing them in their own press release as a way to deliver added convenience for guests and more efficiencies for franchisees and their team members. By May of 2025, Subway confirmed that over 400 of these kiosks were live across the UK, Ireland, Germany, Finland, and the Netherlands. The reaction from UK customers hasn't been warm. Across Trustpilot reviews for Subway UK, customers specifically flagged difficulties with the new kiosk machines, including screens that don't respond correctly and reports of taking 10 minutes to complete what should be a simple order. One reviewer noted that the sign said faster and easier, but the machine repeatedly failed to register what they were selecting. What's more troubling is something multiple customers and former employees have reported independently. In some stores, the counter where the food is prepared has been covered over with large stickers or boards, meaning customers can no longer see what's being put into their sandwich or in what quantities. One customer described ordering a steak footlong and receiving what they called barely any steak, just one spoonful. Another reported a 12-inch sandwich arriving with 2 slices of cheese. The pattern across reviews is consistent enough to take seriously. The one genuinely irreplaceable thing Subway had, the ability to watch your food being made in front of you, appears to be disappearing. Number 8. The customization trap. And this is the one that hit long-term customers the hardest emotionally. For 2 decades, the Subway pitch was almost disarmingly straightforward. Walk in, choose your bread, point at your filling, select your salad, add a sauce, and that was your meal. Nobody else on the British High Street offered that level of personalisation at that kind of price. It was genuinely distinctive, and it built a loyal and returning customer base on that single premise. Then Subway introduced the Subway series, a range of pre-named, pre-configured sandwiches with set ingredients marketed as a refreshed and more modern take on the menu. In practice, it significantly altered the experience, and not in the direction most regulars wanted. Reports from customers and accounts from former employees on social media suggest that the new system created real friction around customization, with some customers being told they couldn't make the kinds of changes they were used to on the series sandwiches. A number of long-standing menu items that people had been ordering for years were removed entirely, creating a fully customized sandwich outside the preset menu reportedly became more expensive than selecting from the fixed options. One former Subway employee, speaking publicly about their experience, described the volume of customization complaints as ridiculous and said it came as no shock when feedback from customers turned sharply negative. The emotional weight of that response matters. One customer who stopped going after years of regular visits put it plainly, that destroyed the whole ethos of customizing your meal. Customer loyalty destroyed. Another said simply that once they couldn't order things the way they always had, there was no reason left to walk past a Greggs to get there. And that's the real damage. The customization wasn't a feature you could quietly remove and replace with something similar, it was the reason to go. Number 7. The price betrayal. And this is the one that most people in this country feel the most directly. Let's talk about what Subway actually used to cost, because this isn't ancient history. For a lot of people watching this, it's living memory. A £5 note used to get you a foot-long sandwich, a drink and a bag of crisps at a Subway anywhere in the UK. A 6-inch with a drink was around £3. They held for years, and they were the prices that built Subway's loyal working-class customer base in this country. Shift workers, students, people grabbing lunch between jobs, people who didn't need fine dining. They needed something decent and genuinely affordable. In 2026, foot-long meal deals at Subway UK start from around £10 and go well beyond that depending on the branch and the sandwich. Premium options can push the total meal well past £14. 2 people going for footlongs and a drink each, and you're looking at the wrong side of £20 before anyone's thought about a snack. Multiple UK customers across review platforms have reported individual meals costing £13, £14, even £15 for one person. For context, a Greggs toasty sausage roll and a hot drink costs around £5. A Tesco Club Card meal deal is £3.60. A main course at a Wetherspoons pub sits comfortably under £10. Subway has positioned itself in a price bracket where for the same money or less, you could sit down to a proper hot meal at a local pub and have a considerably better time doing it. One comment that captured the situation precisely came from a customer who wrote, £5 is the target price for everyone eating a worker's lunch. That's it. Subway didn't compete with Five Guys or GBK. They competed with the McDonald's Saver menu and a Tesco meal deal. The moment they forgot that, they lost the only crowd that was ever really theirs. Number 6. The shrinking footlong. And this one has been spreading across TikTok, Reddit, and review sites because it's the kind of thing that once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Subway's bread appears to have been getting smaller, not technically in length. After a class action case in the United States, where viral photographs showed sandwiches measuring only 11 inches, Subway made a legal commitment in 2016 to ensuring foot-long sandwiches measured at least 12 inches in length. But that agreement only covered length, width, height, and overall volume were not addressed. What customers across the UK and internationally have been consistently reporting is that the bread now appears noticeably flatter and narrower than it once did, the same 12 inches, but thinner, squatter, less substantial. Several customers have described it as a deflated version of what a Subway footlong used to feel like. Subway hasn't publicly confirmed any change to bread dimensions, and it's not a claim that can be definitively verified from the outside, but the consistency of the reports across independent review platforms is difficult to ignore. On Trustpilot UK, customers described sandwiches with barely any visible protein, footlongs that looked smaller than expected when unwrapped, and, in one specific case, a steak footlong from a Bristol branch that the customer described as containing 1 spoonful of steak. Food industry commentators have a phrase for this pattern: stealth shrinkflation. The product technically meets its stated specification in terms of length, but the overall volume and substance of what you receive appears to have quietly diminished over time. You're paying more. The price has moved unmistakably upward, and customers are reporting, with remarkable consistency across multiple independent platforms, that they're getting less. Number 5. The toasting tax. And this one might be the most distinctly British grievance on the entire list. UK tax law places a 20% VAT charge on food that's been heated and served for immediate consumption. Cold food doesn't attract the same charge. This is what's sometimes referred to as the pasty tax, and it applies directly to toasted sandwiches served at outlets like Subway. Subway has been involved in disputes over VAT classification before, but the current position is clear, and that 20% is passed directly on to the customer. In practice, this means the following. If you want your meatball marinara with the cheese actually melted, which is arguably the only way that particular sandwich is genuinely worth eating, you're paying a government-mandated surcharge for approximately 15 seconds inside a heated oven. That cost is factored into the price on the board, and there's no way around it if you want your food warm. The alternative is to take it cold, save the VAT, and eat cold meatballs on bread that, by multiple customer accounts and basic food physics, simply doesn't compare to the toasted version. So you're in a lose-lose. Toast it and absorb the premium. Don't toast it and eat something demonstrably worse. It's a structural problem built directly into the pricing, and it sits on top of everything else we've already covered. Number 4. Private equity takes the wheel. And this is where we zoom out to understand who's actually making the decisions about Subway UK right now. In April of 2024, after more than 60 years as a family business, Subway was sold. The buyer was Roark Capital, an American private equity firm based in Atlanta. The reported price was $9.6 billion. Subway's chief executive at the time described the deal as reflecting the brand's long-term growth potential. What's worth knowing is what kind of business Roark Capital actually runs, and what else it already owns. Roark specializes in what the financial world describes as asset-light businesses. The model works like this. Roark doesn't operate individual stores. Independent franchise owners do that, with their own money and their own financial exposure. Roark collects royalties on the franchise network's sales. In that kind of structure, the commercial priority at the top of the chain isn't improving the experience in any given store, it's maximizing royalty income across the whole network. And when that's the priority, pressure to cut costs flows steadily downward from corporate to franchisee, and from franchisee to the plate in front of you. Worth noting too is that among Roark's existing portfolio of restaurant businesses is Jimmy John's, a sandwich chain and one of Subway's most direct competitors. The Federal Trade Commission in the United States had to review the Subway acquisition specifically because of antitrust concerns about one private equity firm controlling competing sandwich brands. The deal was cleared and went ahead regardless. Since the acquisition, Subway closed a net 729 US stores in 2025, the steepest annual decline in recent years. The UK currently accounts for around 2,070 locations. But when an American private equity firm that also happens to own a competing sandwich chain is now the entity that ultimately determines what goes into your lunch, it seems reasonable to want to know that. Number 3. The loyalty betrayal. And this is a personal one for the many customers who spent years building up Subway points and genuinely valued the loyalty program. The original Subway loyalty system worked in a way most people understood immediately. Collect stamps on a card, fill the card, get something free. You could see your progress, you knew what you were working towards. It was visible, it was honest, and for regular customers going several times a week, it added real value to the decision to keep coming back. That system is now gone. It's been replaced by the Subway Rewards app, which launched in the UK as part of the brand's broader digital push over the last couple of years. And for a significant number of existing customers, the transition went very differently from how it had been communicated. According to public reviews on the Subway UK app's App Store listing, old points were not converted and carried across to the new system. Worse than that, the old points reportedly stopped being accepted in stores earlier than customers had been told they would be, leaving people unable to use what they'd legitimately earned. One reviewer described the experience directly. "I contacted Subway customer care before the old reward system was retired, but have not heard back after over a week. Under the new reward system, I now have 0 points. I was always of the understanding that reward systems are designed to build loyalty. Subway have actively taken my loyalty away." Under the current system, 150 points converts to £1 in Subway cash. You earn 10 points per pound spent. That's £1 back for every £15 you spend. To unlock the better reward tiers, you need to spend £150 at Subway per year, rising to £350 for the highest level. And that's assuming the app actually works, which multiple UK reviewers report is far from guaranteed. Number 2. The salt shock. And we've held this one back because once you've heard the specific numbers, they're going to stay with you. For over 2 decades, Subway has marketed itself to British consumers as the healthy fast food option, the sensible choice, the one you make when you're trying to be a bit more careful about what you eat. So let's actually look at the salt content of what you're ordering. According to Subway UK's own official nutrition data published in September of 2025, the NHS recommends that adults in the UK consume no more than 6 grams of salt per day. That's the daily maximum recommended for maintaining healthy blood pressure and reducing long-term health risks. A 6-inch turkey and ham sub at Subway UK contains 2 grams of salt. Order the footlong, and that doubles to 4 grams. You've now used 2/3 of your recommended daily allowance in a single sandwich, before you've considered a sauce, before you've had anything else that day. If you go for the honey mustard barbecued chicken footlong, you're looking at 4.8 grams of salt according to the same nutrition data. That's getting on for 80% of the NHS daily limit in one sitting. And Subway's own figures show that adding a serving of teriyaki sauce brings another 0.5 gram of salt on top of all of that. There's a reason people have described it as more sodium than you'd find in an entire multi-pack of Walker's crisps in a single footlong. The figures are right there in Subway's own published data. And yet the brand continues to position itself as the fresher, more responsible alternative to a burger chain. When you hold that claim up against the numbers Subway publishes about its own products, it genuinely doesn't hold up. And finally, number 1, the jacket potato moment. There's a particular point in the decline of a brand when it becomes obvious, even from the outside, that the people running it have lost confidence in the thing they were always supposed to be doing. It's when a company stops trying to be genuinely better at its core offering and starts adding things that have nothing to do with why anyone was ever there in the first place. For Subway UK, that moment has arrived. Because in recent years, Subway has launched Jacket Potatoes. It's introduced footlong Oreo cookies and footlong churros. It's brought in Doritos footlong nachos, hash browns, waffle fries, and various hot sides that would sit more comfortably on a school canteen menu than in a sandwich shop that once dominated the British high street. And customers noticed immediately. Across UK comment sections on videos covering Subway's decline, the jacket potato announcement attracted a very particular reaction. One commenter, speaking for a great many people, put it this way: "I saw these guys advertising jacket potatoes and I thought to myself, yup, it's over, buddy." Another compared it directly to Spud You Like, the British jacket potato chain that effectively stopped trading years ago. When a sandwich brand that once had more UK locations than any other fast food chain on earth starts advertising baked potatoes and dessert footlongs, that's not a brand evolving with confidence. That's a brand trying to find a reason for people to walk back through a door they've already largely decided to walk past. Subway in 2026 is an American private equity asset still working out what it is in a UK market that has mostly already moved on without it. And it's asking you to pay restaurant prices while it figures that out. So there we have it, 12 things you absolutely need to know before you set foot in a Subway UK again. If this has been useful to you, please hit that hype button right now. It helps more people find this channel and the work we do here. Leave a comment too, and tell us which food, restaurant or brand you want us to look into next, because we read every single one. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, because there is a lot more of this coming. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and protect your plate.